Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 in our chats with Emily as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. In the Johnson edition, we turn to poem 535. She's happy with a new content. Now, many scholars believe that this is another one of those Sue poems, taking us back to, for example, poem 14. One sister have I in our house and one a hedge away. There's only one recorded, but both belong to me. One came the road that I came and wore my last year's gown. The other, as a bird her nest, builded our hearts among. She did not sing as we did. It was difficult tune herself to her a music as bumblebee of June. Today is far from childhood, but up and down the hills I held her hand the tighter, which sorted all the miles, and still her hum the years among. Deceives the butterfly, still in her eye the violets lie, moldered this many May. I spilt the dew, but took the morn. I chose this single star from out the wide night's numbers. Sue forevermore. Now what's interesting in this poem is that Sue is not named, but 6 years before this poem was written, Sue and Emily's brother Austin will marry the 1st of July, 1856. Our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net, down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily, our playlist. I'm hopeful that you've worked through our set of introductory comments. I'm hopeful that you've worked through our preceding 534 poems. We just finished with 534, we see comparatively. And think about this. According to the great scholar Farr, there has been at least 41 poems that we've studied to this point that have something to do, or this would be 41, have something to do or some reference to be with Sue. And many will argue that this is of a picture of Sue just after her marriage. And in that regards, she's happy. Emily will say it this way. She's happy with a new content that feels to her like sacrament. She's busy with an altered care as just apprenticed to the air. She's tearful, if she weep at all, for blissful causes, most of all that heaven permits so meek as her to such a fate to minister. Now, of course, the end rhyme gives this a kind of sing-songy type of feel that we don't often see directly in Emily's poetry. So the tone of this poem is going to be of some debate. In other words, is Emily being a little bit sarcastic, ironic? We've seen this before, if she is. Notice she'll begin by saying that Sue, if it is Sue, is happier with a new content that feels to her like sacrament. Well, again, of course, a bit of irony here. Emily's marriage to Austin is a form of sacrament, although technically the church that Emily grew up in did not, in fact, see marriage as a sacrament, as the high order Catholic and Anglican groups. But nonetheless, notice here it feels like sacrament. Now, of course, sacrament can also have this sense of duty to it, and then she finishes with the word minister. So to what degree is she making fun of this situation as opposed to applauding it? And then notice we go from happy to busy. Busy with an altered care. And again, let's point out that Emily never did what Sue and Austin did. Emily never married, although she might have thought about it at times. She never actually did it. And one of the arguments as to why is because of the amount of work that would be expected of a domestic wife. She's busy with an altered care. Notice the word altered. I think that's the key word of the poem. Why? Because before, possibly, Emily and Sue were quite close, and now not so much. As just apprenticed to the air, she's, now we go to the third, tearful. Then, if she weep at all. And this if she weep at all suggests maybe that Emily wonders if Sue maybe misses the relationship that Emily very much clearly misses for blissful causes. So in other words, no, if she's crying at all, it's because she's crying tears of joy. Most of all, notice again the repetition of all, and you know, I mean, we cannot help but think about Emily's use of this word all, as she will say it in a number of her poems. All is the price of all, she will say in a famous poem. That heaven permit so meek as her, and again, the word meek, scholars have debated about. Is this a compliment, or is this maybe more of a accusatory word? To such a fate to minister. Notice the word fate capitalized. Ouch, maybe we would say. In other words, is Emily celebrating that whoever the she of this poem is, so let's assume it's Sue, is happy now after making this decision, or rather has come to recognize maybe that wasn't the best of choices? And of course, for Sue's situation, because of the infidelity of her husband, that was actually the case. At 2:8, though, I think the point of this poem is it is hard, if you're taking the perspective of Emily, it's hard to lose a pal to another fate. At 2b, obviously, who is the she of the poem? At 3a, the other Sue poems come to mind. Notice we started with 4, 5, 8, 9, and 14. 14 we read. And then we had 41 before this poem. And then 94, according to Judith Farr, 94 of Emily's poems are directed towards Sue. Finally, at 3b, what was a time when you lost a pal to a fate, and that fate you see now maybe is sad that you lost your pal that way? Thank you.